Welcome to MMT Chats. This episode is brought to you by ISCAR with new ideas for machining intelligently. Hey MMT followers, Christina Fuges with MoldMaking Technology back for another quick MMT chat. And today I am here with Chief Curiosity Officer of Gail now, Gail Robertson. So hello, Gail, how are you?
I'm great. How are you? I'm
Good.
so excited to be here.
I love that title. So we have to first start off, you have to let people know if they don't already know who you are. Who are you? Share your background, how Gail now came about and what exactly it is that you offer before we get into the mold making aspect of it.
So my name is Gail Robertson, and I'm on, my company is Gail Now, and I focus on marketing strategy and also how to help manufacturers tell their story in sometimes fun ways, sometimes innovative ways. And it's about using a tool called curiosity. That is the basis of where I start from. And then I have a very simple but not easy 3-step process. So it's sign up, suit up, and show up. Because if you want to have success, and I believe in any part of life, you need to show up. You need to show up every day, and you have to do the work that will help get you there. So that's my area of specialty, is getting manufacturers to really see how valuable they are and also how valuable their stories are.
I love it. So where does all this energy and passion, come from with marketing specifically? Where does all this come from?
Yeah. Well, my background is in journalism. And I remember when I was in journalism school, our last year we had these shirts made that said, out to change the world on deadline. And that is a great belief I have. I wanted, and I still do, I want to change the world. And changing the world can mean a whole bunch of different things. So I've been a reporter. Then I transitioned. I ran a bed and breakfast on an island. Then I was a fundraiser, and then I was a marketing manager, and now have my own business. So I guess the passion comes from learning, curiosity, and I love, I'm that person that loves to open those doors, see what's behind them. And I've worked in insurance and found insurance fascinating because I really dug deep on that. And people go, how did you find insurance fascinating? Because, when you start being curious and, again, digging deep, it's amazing what you can find. So the same thing happened in manufacturing. It was through networking that I connected up with, actually my first client in manufacturing was Cavalier Tool here in Windsor. Yes. Met Brian Bendig, and kind of the rest is history.
Brian, that's all you need to say, right? That's it.
That's all I need to say. If you know Brian, you understand why that is, that's so powerful. Really, I found that, wow, manufacturing there's so many layers that people don't understand. And then the more that I started understanding, I went, everything we use every day comes from mold makers too, the people that make things. And as I started learning about it and realizing there was opportunity, I will say this, I am someone, as I studied marketing, I realized, there's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Opportunity is really the area I like to focus on. So I focused on it in my business, and now I work with clients that also want to work with me on how do you tap into that opportunity, not just for fun, but to grow your business, to be successful.
Yep. 2 things I want to say about what you said. Number one, it all comes down to people. So I don't care what the industry is that somebody might say is boring, right? Or too technical. If there's people involved, there are stories to share just about their journey with the boring parts of a business, right? So I agree with you in terms of that. There's always something to share, no matter how the outside world looks at that particular industry. And second, I wanted to hear what your first impression was of mold making, because what is interesting to me is the magazine started back in '97, and we had a trade show, the MoldMaking Expo, and it was all for mold builders, right? All the sessions were for mold builders. Nothing was about them selling their services. We never even thought about that. As the show went on, we started realizing people were coming to the show looking for tooling vendors. So all of a sudden we're like, oh my gosh, we got to start teaching these guys and gals. You need to market your services, which is something Cavalier is an exception, right? They really don't think about it. And it's a big job, and it's an important job. So it kind of all unfolded with me professionally, even on the mat, even being in media, that our audience we're educating them, but we also need to educate them on how to sell themselves and market themselves. So was that your impression when you first met Cavalier? Like, they're not the average tool shop. So what was your impression
Mm-mm.
of the marketplace?
Well, that's exactly it. It has to do with people. When I first met Brian Bendig, I knew like he was interesting, fascinating. At that time, he even had a snake in his office, and I
Yeah.
love snakes. And I think he may have thought I was maybe blowing smoke a bit. And he said, "Do you want to hold her?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I remember he left the house, came back, the snake was all around, and I
Ah,
actually genuinely love snakes. I know I'm that weirdo that
I
loves
remember,
snakes.
I
Although
remember he had a spider at some point. I never
yeah,
saw a snake.
I didn't like the spider so much, but the snake, I'm like, bring her on, right? So that is how we really connected, I think. And you're right. It's about people. It's not so much the industry. And because I come from a journalism background and then transition to marketing, I mean, that's where that curiosity comes in. I love meeting people, learning about people, talking to people. And then now my business is based on exactly what you said. It's about, the people that you're talking to. And because of that background in journalism, I'm working like Cavalier will sometimes, as other clients, they go, "Oh, really? Do you think that's important?" Yes. Like I know a good story. That is something that I was trained to do. So my job is to help clients tell their story. And it just happens to be, mold making. I've been in insurance, and it's about, finding those people stories, because people, okay, you need insurance. You're going to need, if you're in the mold making, you're going to need someone to build your tools. You need to find the people that will also deliver, that will also have, what they say they're going to do, they deliver on. So that's another part of this too. It's not like that you're just going to come in there and I can market anybody. You need to
Right.
have the right pieces of the puzzle. And the good thing about Cavalier is what you see is exactly who they are. There's no pretense. And what we probably have in common is that we're not necessarily taking all customers, right? It's about
Mm.
really finding what your area of specialty is. And yeah, I've got to, walk the shop floor, and they've showed me like how, like, how they're making some of these
Yeah.
tools. And who knew that it was that intricate? Like now I look at every plastic item differently,
Yep.
right? I look at it and go, and I even will say to Tim sometimes, I'm like, "Oh, this lid there's a lid. I buy this feta cheese at Costco." And I'm like, "They need to fix this because every
Yep.
time I have to get a knife and cut it, and it won't open properly." So I know
Yep.
it's a log that goes back a couple of steps. So yeah, now
Exactly.
I mean, it's just fascinating to see. I mean, I look at plastic pieces in my car now, and
How can you not? You can't
how
not
can you
look at
not?
it and start analyzing any defect or imperfection. You know why somebody gave up trying to root cause that thing, or
Yes,
or it was okay. It was a mistake. It was
yes.
okay for that kind of cosmetic part, right? It is funny. It's funny. So what I find interesting about you, and maybe also kind of tactical or strategic, is you also work with the Canadian Association of Mold Makers. So you're putting yourself around a bigger group that represent
Mhm.
a Cavalier. And I think that was smart and just smart. And I think it's valuable to them too. So can you talk a little bit about how do you work with them and how did that come
Yeah.
about?
Well, I actually, Tim Galbraith from Cavalier was also on the board, and definitely, I think, suggested it might be a good idea for me. And now I'm also someone who greatly believes in giving back. Like, I think it's important, to give back. But here's the thing, Christina, it's also about learning and being educated. So I'm now sitting in meetings and learning about the industry, learning about why, the border issues are important, why the chip
Yeah.
shortage is important, why I'm going to be delayed getting my new vehicle now because of that,
Yeah.
right? Like now I'm
Right.
understanding a lot of the behind the scenes. So that's how I got involved, was a little bit of a nudge. And now I wouldn't change anything. And then the pandemic hit, and I was just a new board member. And before I knew it, I was on daily meetings. We had meetings every morning at 7:30 a.m. every morning. And
Wow.
I was there at the table learning, listening, and talking about strategy. That is something I consider. I often say running the bed and breakfast was like my general marketing MBA. I'm going to
Okay.
say being on CAM since the pandemic has been my MBA in manufacturing and
Wow.
marketing and mold making. There is no way I could go take a course, get a degree on what I've learned being on sitting in those calls, and my where people were also asking my view, and I would often bring that outsider view. Tim Galbraith wrote, and this is a little bit of, I'll toot my own horn here a little bit, that he wrote a great testimony on my LinkedIn, and he said, you know, I bring a fresh perspective into this industry, and it's having a different view, basically, right? And because I will say, wait a minute, you know, I know you all know that, but generally the population doesn't understand. Why should mold makers be able to cross the border why are some of them not considered essential workers? Well, once we say they're the people that make things, it's that whole supply chain. But you have to start connecting the dots. And that's what people don't understand, is that there's a chain here, and, you know, mold makers are essential to us getting our products on trucks, getting those trucks made. Yep. And again, I would think, well, how does that impact trucks? Well, guess what? You know how many trucks are made each year? Like, I was like, what? Yep. Like, some of the stats I'm hearing about, you know, if we don't have, you know, tool makers, yeah, things can, just like right now with chip shortages, that everything is connected. And as soon as we have, you know, a loose cog somewhere, things break down. So yeah, we need to say, mold makers rock.
Yeah, mold making, I keep saying, respect the mold. Like, mold making matters. Like, it is so true. And as bad as a pandemic and going through all that on a personal level, and businesses and all that chaos and craziness and sadness, depression, all that stuff, the light that was shown on the mold making industry was astounding. Like, and even for themselves, so many learned what they could accomplish in areas in the times they could accomplish it. They tested relationships that they had even throughout the supply chain in their local communities. And time after time, those stories, I mean, that's what pushed me through too. Like, these stories are amazing. I wish they were more mainstream stories. Sometimes I feel like we're preaching to the choir. I wish the world could have learned and then exposed to all these next generation kids. My gosh, you could be part of making a ventilator component that just saved a bunch of lives, right? Like, someone's making the tools that make those things. They don't just come out of thin air. So I look back at that past 18 months as, wow, like, what a roller coaster, but how great it was for our industry that we work within, right?
And you're right. Telling those stories is so key. And that is a good segue into the power of social media and digital marketing, because you want to have this, just like trade publications are important, but what you're doing is really key too, because it's a whole supply chain. You need to have the trade publication. There's still people wanting to hold a magazine, and it's not just an age thing too. I know a lot of people that, like, they want a niche magazine, not a general magazine. They want something very specific. So you have that, but then you have all the digital components, webinars, you do these chats, you do social media, which we connected through social media. I remember following you on Twitter, we connected, and that's how I read the magazine. When it comes in, I'm like, the Saturday morning with coffee, I'm reading the trade publications. I know. Tim says, he goes, you know, you're a nerd. I go, yeah, I know. It's like a badge of honor, right?
Exactly.
So it's important that, again, I'll use Cavalier as an example, although there are others, but it's one that I know intimately because I've been working with them, and really working with them more since the start of the pandemic. And this is what's key. At a time when a lot of businesses would have pulled back on marketing, Cavalier moved forward. And if you see the companies that are most successful, they were the ones that didn't take their foot off the gas, right? They decided to push through. And part of that pushing through is, you know, if you're not going to a trade show, what are you going to do? Well, you're going to have to do something virtual. You're going to have to jump on Zoom calls. You're going to use social media. You're going to maybe pump up your website. Cavalier just has now a virtual tour on their website, and it's not just photos. It's not photos strung together. It is an actual, like, walk you through their shop floor. Those are the things that are making a difference when you start to get very targeted, very specific. And here's the most important for anybody listening today that's saying, yeah, but I don't like social media. And I think it was raised in Gonto, I think. So one of the people I interviewed on my panel recently said, yeah, because they're too busy making cold calls and sending emails. And yet where is that getting you? Whereas you can get, instead of one-to-one, with social media, you have one-to-many.
Yep.
And the other thing, Christina, when I ask people, I say, do you use Google? Mm-hmm. Do you watch videos on YouTube? Yes. So when you start us, I said, okay, so you consume social media. Yes. Guess what? So are your competitors, and so are your customers. If you think it's a waste of time, but yet you're searching and on social media and using these
Good
tools.
point.
So do you want to be a producer or do you want to be a consumer? And once you make that decision, that's when you can grow your business. You can start networking, making connections, and the world opens up.
So it's so easy to, I mean, I agree with everything you said, and it's so easy to say. And even as a media company, you know, born out of print, right? It is overwhelming. So I want your expertise to kind of boil down, and you have this, like, what are the initial easy steps to like start? Because it's one platform, you know, doing webinars or doing videos or doing this or doing Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. So what are the starting points to have somebody really easily digest this and actually be able to, once you start, you can't stop. You got to be consistent, right? And follow through. Yep. So that's important. So what's your advice?
Number one is, first of all, you know, check your website, make sure you have your website. But even if you don't have that, the number one platform, 4 to 5 decision makers are on this platform. And this is the one platform I'd recommend everyone start with is LinkedIn. It's in the B2B world. It's not a platform now that's, you know, that people are just going, putting their resume up and looking for jobs. It is a platform that is for B2B people as well. And if you think of how many decision makers are there, and people are searching, people are doing their, before they even want to address you, they're going to be checking there. And the companies that I've talked to, and I've done a lot of interviewing, I've done a lot of my own research on this area, is that before they even want to apply to work with you or they want to shop from you, they're doing a search. Yep. And I always joke, I said, especially my one friend always contacts me because a couple of friends that are even in doing online dating, right? They go, hey, can you search this first? And I'm like, yeah, we do our research before. Exactly. And it's amazing what a Google search will pull up, right? And so Google search, Google My Business is another must have. I would say if you do nothing else, make sure you're Google My Business. And then LinkedIn is for both company, but say a salesperson's listening right now and they're going, yeah, but my company isn't involved. Jump on LinkedIn and do your own thing. Get out there, develop your personal brand. People will buy from people they know. They want a personal connection. And if you look way back, one of the early people in personal branding were people like Richard Branson and her name's escaping right now, but remember the Body Shop, Anita? Yep, her name's escaping me, but there are a couple of examples of, it wasn't so much the company brand, it was the person that people connect with.
That's what I was going to ask you. That's a great, I'm glad that you said that, because I often struggle with that, because even again, as a media company, and we're trying to teach our readers too, is it the company? Does the company develop a profile or the individuals? And I tend to feel like you, because that's our theme, right? It's all about the people. Yep. So if you're searching, you can only go so deep with MoldMaking Technology's LinkedIn profile, and it only means so much, right? But if it's coming from me or one of the other editors or a salesperson, you can actually connect with that person. Then you are kind of having that one-on-one. So I am glad that you said that, because I actually don't hear that a lot. A lot of times it's companies' presence, and then it's a little cold, right?
I heard a podcast, I think it was on Twitter yesterday, and there was someone was saying, well, I really want to get out and market my business, but I don't want to go on screen. I don't want it to be about me. And so one woman, she's sassy. She goes, you know, first thing, well, get over it. Get over yourself. That was her.
It is.
I was thinking that a lot of people don't want to say that. And I would say you have to have the personal identity. Now, maybe you do it in baby steps. Maybe you start with, you know, you don't do video, right? But video by far is going to be what will launch you forward. And I know people can go, oh yeah, well, Gail, it's easy for her because, you know, she's an extrovert and she's out there and she does this. You know, I have seen people transform a lot of things. Now, I'm someone who I use the example, whether it's in our own personal lives. I wasn't a cyclist, but now I cycle I can cycle up to 50, 60, 75 kilometers. If you would have said that 2 years ago, I'd be like, no way, 10 kilometers, I'm beat, right? Some things, now, do I like working out? I don't love working out. Believe me, I'm not one of those people that goes, oh, I just love it so much. I can't wait to do it. That's not me. But I do it because it gets me the results I want. I feel healthy. I feel stronger. I have more energy. The same thing with social media. You don't have to like it. And there's someone, Dan Bigger, who is a great salesperson. He's all over social. And he even says, I hated social media. And now he's using it, embracing it. He uses LinkedIn. A lot of people are stuck in thinking social media is this like, oh, it's just, I get all this garbage from Facebook and I find out people are showing what they eat or there's arguments. And I said, that's life. You can hang around with people like that, or you can move along. You can move along. You can curate your content. I curate my content on all of my platforms.
Yep.
So my platforms deliver for me because it's who I choose to have in my circle. And the algorithm, if you're engaged in arguments, if you're posting or you're going and commenting on it, you're going to get more of that.
Yep, exactly. Good point. Good point. Yeah. So what would you say? All right, let's break down whether it's Cavalier or another relatable customer. What is the best example, like success story of where you've taken a customer with a particular, we'll say, social media strategy, or maybe boil down to an example of a specific post even? Like give us some concrete examples.
Generally, I'll start general and go specific. So generally the best posts that deliver are ones that show photos, close up of faces. So a lot of times people take these photos too, and they're like way across the room, and people want to see faces, and there's all sorts of psychology around this. People want to see close up. They connect, they look in the eye. So get photos. And just a sidebar on LinkedIn, photos actually perform better than video generally. I found that's been something I found. The other thing is in manufacturing, and I say this, and people chuckle, but it's true, the bar is set pretty low. So you do one post, you're going to stand out right away. Like exactly. You don't have to do a lot. You don't have to post every day. Right. I even say post once a month to start. Say you're going to commit to once a month, do a post. And it doesn't have to be something that's going to rock the world. Like post something that shows, you can even do a motivational quote. So that would be the general. Just start somewhere. Specifically in terms of strategy and what I work with on clients that are looking to take it to the next step is connecting the dots, right? So you want to basically have your website, have your LinkedIn content, maybe do a Facebook or Twitter. Don't try to be everywhere. That's the other thing. And be consistent. You don't have to, again, look at quantity, really look at, how often you're doing it and stay consistent. One of the things that I did, I'll use this example because I know Cavalier and Tim has spoken about this as well. They were doing a trade show in Germany. They were going to do the same, type of booth that maybe they had done in the past. And I had just come on the scene at this point. And I said, and I heard that they were going to be the only Canadian company there. And I thought, that's like right opportunity. We can stand out. And as Damon Kostuko, one of my favorites on social media and manufacturing, says, you want to be the red M&M in the bowl of green. I'm a great advocate for that. You want to stand out, because if not, why are you doing this? If you don't want to stand out,
forget it. Exactly.
Forget it. So I suggested that let's do a Canadian theme. Hockey, we'll do hockey ice rink on the floor like a replica. And we'll do, instead of having, posters, we'll do rink boards and have all of your statements in a rink board format.
Oh, wow.
Got them in jerseys, like really nice high-end jerseys. And we had Canadian beer, and they had Reese's peanut butter cups, which apparently went over really well too. But the Canadian beer was also good because it was a twist cap, and they weren't used to seeing that. Now, let me back up a bit. When I first suggested that there was jerseys, but I did my research, and this is the curiosity piece. Okay. I contacted the show. I talked to people that I know that have businesses in Germany, because I had heard, everybody wears a suit. Oh, you got to stay, everybody does this. And when I hear everybody does something, I'm like, really? let's dig a little deeper. So I called the show people. And I said, I have this idea. And they go, we love it. And I said, okay, we're not going to look like I always said like the dancing, bear. And I said, we didn't want that either, right? We didn't want to look too weird. Like, no, 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 this is great. Then I sent out media releases talking about only, Soul Canadian. And so I had all the pieces together, started posting socially, made some contacts. I called the organizers. I talked to them. They got to know me. I was posting on social media, so they knew who I was. Yeah. And then they called, hey, we're doing pre-show. We're going to be interviewing. And this was like, I don't know, there was a lot of people. I don't know, like either hundreds or I forget now how many. There was a lot of people at the show. And they wanted Cavalier to be one of the 3 or 4 people that they interviewed pre-show. Bingo. Now we are this little small relative to, we're over there in Europe. And that's the key to success, when you can stand out in a crowd and be willing to own it. And it's not about ego. It's about believing in your product, believing in who you are. Luckily, Cavalier and I both agree on that. We know what we're doing. So let's go forward, and people can trust in us because we believe in ourselves. Because I always say, if you don't believe in what you're doing, no one else will.
Yeah. And they're not going to know you believe unless you tell them and show them.
Exactly.
So I will say that whole campaign was at the Molding Expo in Stuttgart, Germany, because I remember seeing it all over social media. So it worked in that regard. It was something that did make them stand out. And I totally agree with you. At a certain point, you have to walk away from everybody's busy. I mean, I get so tired of hearing that. Like, everybody is busy. So you have to make the time to do that part of your business. And it means being the only Canadian tool shop at a German show. That's fantastic. I mean, it was probably a wicked opportunity for Cavalier in terms of business, quite frankly, let alone having that name be out there, right? And to show that even their competitors should be doing that. So that's been happening more and more. A lot of these guys and gals at these shops are seeing the benefits of that. And I think social and videos and even like print advertising, web advertising, I'm seeing a lot of our not typical companies take the leap and are finding and are reaping the rewards of actually acknowledging marketing and putting strategies together and hiring, whether it's an agency, an outside individual, or hiring somebody internal at some of these shops, have completely impressed me when they actually build a department within their own shops. It's come such a long way, marketing in mold making.
Yes, it has. And I think if you look at the people with the most success and are having success, even at a time when, a lot of people would think, oh, during the pandemic. Yeah, during the pandemic is the perfect opportunity to stand out in a crowd. And,
I agree.
That Germany trade show, there's still people talking about those jerseys. There's still people sharing them, want those jerseys. It became iconic, right? And people want to, and Tim often says, we didn't have one plastic part, we didn't have one tool in the booth. And then at the Amerimold, as you know, they did the race theme. We did speed, and we had the floor that was the checkerboard. I was dressed in race gear. I went along. Now that's okay. They invested in having me there. Also, I mean, not only am I learning, but I'm also able to, talk to people, engage with people. And, I know enough about it that I can start some conversations. And like, a lot of times people too, like I like getting dressed up. So not a lot of people like that. I get it. But, it's amazing how many people came up and said, wow. And I've had this because I've been dabbling in TikTok, and I'm surprised at how many people are following me on TikTok that I didn't know. And they even said, oh, I follow you, because I don't know. They're not like, I don't see that they're following me.
Okay.
And I had one person in media say to me, I'm following TikTok. He goes, wow, I'm really impressed with people who, step out like that stand like, well, and I thought, like I was thinking at first, because TikTok is it's a little edgier.
Yeah.
It definitely shows another side of who I am. Now, the more, and this is the thing, the more you step out, the more you stand out, the more that people will come and approach you. The right people will approach you. And that's the key part. And one of the greatest fears people have is being judged.
Yes, of course.
I have that same fear at times. I'm thinking, oh, I said recently to someone that works with me, and I said, do you think that's too much? And she goes, Gail, that's who you are, right? You're kind of like, that makes up your brand. And, people can choose their own much, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying do what I do. I'm not saying that social media and posting and going on TikTok is for everybody. What I am recommending, though, is that you start somewhere, because you will have success. I guarantee. I just had also, there was a testimonial on my LinkedIn from someone, because she wrote to me, and I didn't even know that I had made as much of an impact, but she has now, through social media and believing in herself and stepping out, she has now in a role and she's doubled her income. And she's crediting me for a lot with that, because, which I was like, but she did the work.
Right.
All I did was say, start sharing on LinkedIn, and once she started, people were drawn to her.
Yeah.
They started asking questions and they wanted to connect with her. And I'm often surprised at how many salespeople do not see this as an opportunity.
Me too.
That's where my 3-step process, though, right? It's that you have to sign up, suit up, show up. If you don't sign up, if you don't have the mindset, you have to decide you want to make a change. And if not, another example, like I've thought about doing a marathon. I've now taken that off my list, because I know that's not, I can have it on my list, but unless I'm going to sign up, have the right mindset, and do the suit up, no. So I've kind of eliminated that, because it's not now on my bucket list, but I do want to increase my cycling. So it's the same with social media. You don't have to say, oh, I want to have 40,000 followers, or I want to, do a post every day. You could say, you know what, I'm going to try this, and I'm going to try it. You have to be patient. It's not going to happen overnight, but I'm going to start putting myself out there, just as I would at a trade show. Because these same people will go to a trade show, they'll talk to people at the bar, they'll talk to people at the trade show booth. Just bring this over to social.
It translates perfectly. You're right.
Yes.
You're right.
You will have success. Yep.
You will. So the end game is you just have to start. You got to get in the game and put yourself out there.
Sure.
Don't overthink it. I like what you said way earlier in the conversation. Get over yourself. I think you said that when we were recording. Get over yourself, and just because you're right. Some people could look at you and say, you're comfortable with this. No, you might think so, but everybody starts off not knowing what they're doing. But just get that messaging out there and build an audience. And I like how you're explained also. You can control who who follows you, and what you're putting out there. You can control a lot of that. So make it be the world that you want it to be, right?
And I hear that people go, oh, I don't want my personal life. Well, don't share all that. Then.
Yeah,
you are the ultimate control of what you are posting. And, you may start with just even pick one of the simplest things to do. If you always get asked a certain question, answer that question in a post. People will come to you. I did a post even yesterday that really didn't take me that. I was talking about curiosity and focus. And one of the things was, I'm doing a challenge right now around, this. And I looked at, for me, focus can be a challenge at times, because I'm curious, because I could just go down rabbit holes. I love learning. And I realized that it's both a blessing and a curse, right, to have this. So I have to make sure for myself that I stay on track and not veer off too much. So that's something that, we all have, whatever our issue is, whatever we may find as a weakness, and maybe be aware of that. And as I said, it really is, like, for some people, it's probably finding something to post about. Whereas I usually have lots of ideas. It's a matter of focusing on what that will be. But starting.
Yep. I think the final takeaway is what you just said. I love it. Everybody out there that's listening and watching are mold builders, molders that have an expertise in what they do every day. Just what Gail said, we are challenging you now to get on social media. If you're not, you have colleagues, customers, vendors coming to you with a question, a common question. So turn that into a post and put yourself as the expert to answer that question, and you will get a response. I think that is the challenge we are putting out there today. So Gail, thank you so much for your time today. I always enjoy talking to you. Just the enthusiasm alone gets me all revved up, because we think the same when it comes to marketing, and we just want to help the mold builders out there. Is there any last takeaway and how people can get in touch with you or follow you do a little shout out to that.
Well, I would say anybody that wants to reach out, I'm Gail now on most social media platforms. You can Google that, but find me on LinkedIn as Gail Robertson. Please connect with me. And even if you have a question and you want to know about how to find a marketing consultant, how to do that, I have a lot of contacts and connections, and I would be more than happy to jump on a call, especially if they recommend Christina, your name, and MMT. I would be more than happy to have a quick chat with them, jump on a call, and give them a few quick tips. And one of the things that one last thing to leave with, one of the biggest issues right now is finding people to work in this industry in mold making. So the more, not only will you help yourself, but companies need to be out there posting to get more people excited about this industry. And that's the longer term goal as well with social and digital.
With that being said, I think we need to do a follow-up chat that talks about once they start doing it, making sure what they put out there, whether it's social or digital website, matches who they are and who the company is for that future generation, right? All right.
Yes.
Thank you, Gail, again. And to everybody out there watching, remember, for everything mold making, visit moldmakingtechnology.com. Stay safe and healthy. And more importantly, stay informed and stay inspired.